people buying these bot farms, even though we're talking about this Hollywood celebrity ridiculous culture, that kind of stuff happens across the board, whether it's to inflate the popularity, supposed popularity of some artist, or to help some politicians pass like a bill, even to be like, see how much support we have, and then they fight for it. This is like weird kind of narrative engineering that we have to be so aware of, because it's happening, it's assaulting you everywhere. And then you're talking about, these are major crazy players, right? Like Saudi Arabia, you said it was Saudi Arabia, the prince or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the allegation, right? Is that he was such tight buddies with Johnny Depp at one point that he was basically sending these huge bot farms to blow up or exaggerate the pro Depp support online. But the problem with these views is that these people, just these journalists who propound these theories, they just can't imagine that these could actually be organic views, that just a lot of people actually look at these situations and it's very clear to them what's going on and they're interested in it. And
Yeah.
so to me, there's nothing strange or inorganic about the interest that this Blake Lively situation is garnering. It's just amazing to me that her team let her do this, and that she and Ryan Reynolds did not foresee how this would blow up in her face. She's already so disliked. If you're coming in, Johnny Depp, at least he was coming into that situation being one of the most beloved figures
Yeah.
in the world. And if you're Blake Lively, your problem is already that people hate you. Like, that's what started this whole thing, right? Is you're trying to scapegoat some entities for the bad sentiment about you online. Well, people already don't like you. You think that if you pick on a guy who can prove that he's innocent, as it turns out, it looks like he's being able to do in his lawsuits, you think that's going to turn out okay?
Did
It's so stupid. Might be one of the dumbest things that a celebrity has done.
Ryan Reynolds thought he could do the Peloton thing for his wife, and it didn't pan out. Didn't he bring back Peloton or something during COVID? He did some like crazy ad campaign.
Or maybe her sister from Teen Witch put some power spells on her.
Well, this sounds like there's witches in the family for sure.
Definitely
I did look up her father real quick before we go back to this whole thing. Blake's father. This is weird to me. That, correct me if I'm wrong, Blake's father took his last name from his wife's ex-husband. That's weird to me. That's weird to me. I'm pretty sure, right?
And it's lively.
Right? It was, his name was Brown, and then he took his wife's surname from her ex. I don't know. That's got like Joe Biden vibes to me, honestly. But these people are all crazy. So how do you feel about Ryan Reynolds? Because my opinion of him is that I never trusted him, even though I think he's funny. There's something about him. It's like if he were made of clay and they pinched his face together. And there's something about it that just always bothered me.
Well, I was also remembering how he dated Alanis Morissette.
Really?
Like, yeah, back like 2007.
And she's got a track record with bad dudes. I like Alanis.
Yeah, she was.
David Coulier screwed up, man.
A lot of her songs are about David.
That's
and
right.
Also Ryan Reynolds, I think.
Ooh,
so
did you know that, Kurtz?
That Ryan Reynolds and Alanis were together?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they were engaged for a while.
What?
And then he went from her to Scarlett, and then Scarlett to Blake. Been with Blake a long time. The thing about Ryan, this is one of the big debates online among content creators and people who are following this, is to what degree is Ryan Reynolds culpable in this, and to what degree also does he know the truth here or he doesn't? Some people have speculated that maybe Ryan, and this is something that Candace Owens was talking about a lot on her show too, is that maybe Ryan looked at the early rushes or the early dailies and saw this chemistry between his wife, Justin Baldoni, who objectively speaking is a much more attractive man, I'm sorry, than Ryan Reynolds. And he sees this chemistry, or maybe he sees Blake acting kind of a certain way or whatever, or maybe he's just a jealous guy, as some have suggested, and he freaks out. And then they have a fight, and then she, to kind of deflect, is like, well, he's been kind of harassing me, or he's weird, or blah, blah, blah. Some people are saying maybe she was falsely complaining to Ryan, manipulating him, what have you. The other, though, perspective is that he's also coming at this in a kind of Machiavellian sense, and that maybe they do want the book rights to this whole series, because that's something that Blake has alluded to at times in an interview here or there. And then there's, all kinds of speculation, everything in between. But he is definitely hated now, Ryan Reynolds, unless something changes.
It's interesting because
He is hated
he
now.
was loved. He seemed like a beloved character because he is really funny.
You know about the nice pool reference? Should I explain it really briefly?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. What is
Yeah,
that?
so I have not seen any of the Deadpool movies, which I know makes me some kind of ridiculous person.
I only
but
saw the
haven't.
first one.
But apparently, in the recent, what is it, Deadpool versus Wolverine movie that he did with Hugh Jackman,
Okay.
and the fans can correct me if I'm getting some things wrong, but here's the gist of it, is that there is a character called Nice Pool, and it's played by Ryan Reynolds, and he wears a man bun, and he spouts off feminist maxims, and basically like is this ridiculous character that uses his sort of like, oh, I'm a sensitive man feminism thing, right? And so he's the butt of jokes in this film, and he's killed by Lady Pool, the Blake Lively character. In fact, Blake
Ooh.
even does the voice for Lady Pool,
Interesting.
and it's outside a flower shop in this film. Nice Pool is killed by Lady Pool outside this flower shop, and of course the flower shop is where the main character in It Ends With Us worked. Lily Bloom was her name. It was all about flowers, right? And so basically what a lot of people have figured out here, and it's even mentioned in Baldoni's lawsuits, it gets even brought up here as evidence of the ill will by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds toward Justin Baldoni, is that they were using this character to skewer and basically kind of harass him from afar. And so clearly they have big issues with this guy. They could not control themselves.
That's really passive aggressive.
And Ryan Reynolds also, it's alleged in Baldoni's lawsuits, he would frequently blow up and berate Baldoni. And there was one meeting in particular where Baldoni claims that there was a producer or someone who was a long time in the industry who was present and said that after Ryan Reynolds blew up at Baldoni, that it was the worst display that they had ever seen in their history in the movie industry. So again, I don't know. I know this is a competing claims here, but when you read Baldoni's claims and his evidence and his lawsuit, and you compare it to Blake Lively's, her documents, her complaint, her lawsuit that she ended up filing, it's like night and day. One way, way more credible and substantive and rational than the other one. Blake Lively's lawsuit, she's doing crazy things in her complaint. She's doing crazy things like calling a birthing video pornography. She alleges that she was harassed on set because one of Baldoni's friends and one of the producers on set, when they were apparently talking about a birthing scene that was going to take place in the film, showed her a snippet of his wife's home birth where he was there with his wife, and they're in the tub and he's behind her and all of that. And Blake is using the term in her legal filing that was pornography. So that's the kind of like crazy stuff that you're getting from her side versus when you look at his lawsuit. It makes a lot more sense.
Interesting. So I saw the videos of Ryan Reynolds interviewing people for like a press tour, right? And people were saying he's so weird. And then I saw the interview you're talking about with Blake Lively, and the interviewer saying congratulations or whatever. Do you think we are applying negative things to them because of what we know now, to those interviews, to those videos? Seriously? Or like, because I was wondering, like, because I say this a lot on this show about a haunted house, right? Am I just applying these feelings to this house because I know the story? Or are they really just haunted, screwed up people? Like, what do you think when you see those videos? Are you weirded out?
I mean, look, I know that actors, I said this in one of my videos a couple weeks ago, I know that actors hate doing all those interviews.
Right.
And so to me, it's not a big deal if someone's bitchy or snarky in an interview. But I think that, and that's why I ignored this whole thing for months and months. But then once you start filing official government complaints and you start trying to cancel someone and you're leaking stories to the New York Times, and then you've got countersuits of $650 million. I mean, these things then become serious.
Yeah.
Do I actually think that I know like who Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds really are? No. All I have to go by is the way that they have behaved in their official actions with these legal maneuvers. And to me, that's bad enough. Like they tried to cancel what looks to be now a completely innocent man with, and not just him, his studio, with trumped up charges.
Isn't it kind of weird that her husband would be interviewing about her movie?
No, I think it is weird. But then when I was watching it, I'm like, that's like his weird Deadpool humor too. but it's weird to inject himself into something he has, as far as I know, nothing to do with, right? He's not in the movie. He didn't really write. It seems like what you're saying, Kurtz. He pushed himself into the production
Apparently, he
somehow.
wrote some scenes, right? Isn't that allegedly helped her write?
But like
some
he
scenes?
brought on the mom, and that's when it started getting weird.
It's kind of like, I guess I'd put it as like sort of a Bill and Hillary Clinton first term, you know, where like she didn't have an official role, but he was like, here, just do like healthcare or whatever.
Right.
I feel like Blake and Ryan, yes, Ryan was not an official producer on this thing. He was the husband of Blake Lively, who's an executive producer, but he had no standing upon which to be involved in the slightest, much less crashing meetings and berating people.
Right.
And also, I'll say this, you know, when Blake Lively held a meeting to try to reprimand Baldoni and Wayfarer for what she claimed at that point were toxic workplace practices, because she was ginning this up even during production, just leading some people to say that maybe this is part of a more extensive plan about book rights and stuff. But anyway, but when she called him to that meeting, or when they had that meeting, she brought Ryan Reynolds as her, quote, representative. And she talks about this in her complaint or her lawsuit, that she brought him as her representative because he was so involved with everything, et cetera, et cetera. I cannot think of a less feminist thing to do than to bring your husband to a work meeting where you're going to be discussing like sensitive work matters. To me, like that's something that's also drives me nuts about these women, is that they're feminists only up to a point when it's convenient, when they can be activists, or when they can talk about, oh, you know, I'm an independent woman. But then first trouble she gets into, so to speak, she's got Ryan coming up there.
Right.
And so he was clearly very involved in this. The question a lot of people are asking is, to what extent was Taylor Swift involved in this? And that's something, you know, that I think that has been totally unforeseen by Taylor Swift, is the fact that she would get dragged into this, or whether she deserves to be dragged into it or not. But there's going to be now an extensive couple of lawsuits that are going to be playing out. Well, more than that, an extensive series of lawsuits that are going to be playing out about this whole situation. And Taylor Swift is going to be at various times involved in it. So
I'm okay if she gets taken down. I'm okay. That's fine.
She won't.
I think she's is it the daughter or the granddaughter of Anton LaVey? Do you know that theory?
Granddaughter.
Have you heard that? People really think that that's possible. You got to look up images of his LaVey's wife, and people are, I forget who exactly it is, but they're like, she's of the lineage of the Church of Satan. And you know what? Honestly,
great headline.
I think there's something to it, to be sure. And before I go to the next question, I don't want to gloss over the fact that Kurtz just a few minutes ago compared Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to the unrepentant killers, the Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh God.
She did just do that, everyone, and I think that was probably on purpose. But so you've covered this kind of story for a while. You've seen the internet react to these types of crazy stories. You've read the headlines. Are you noticing anything different with the audience now? Like, it feels like we've entered a new phase of reality in the past few months, and that people have kind of shifted. Are you seeing like media cover it any differently, or the audience reacting any differently?
I think that the mainstream media is continuing to do exactly what it has done and what I expected it to do. And so I cannot think of a, quote, mainstream outlet that has covered this in a way that is not slanted toward or biased toward Blake Lively. When in fact, as with Depp versus Heard, public sentiment and content creator and non-MSN
Right.
Commentators are very much on the pro Baldoni side. And so Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, some other big names, right, very much pro Baldoni. And then you have a lot of content creators like me, pro Baldoni. But then when you look at mainstream media, you know, mainstream Nightline, for instance, I haven't watched it, but I'm told that Nightline recently did a series on this that was slanted toward Lively. Certainly the mainstream media outlets, The Guardian, New York Times, and all of these, you know, continuing to be pro Blake Lively. So in some ways, I think we're still in where we were with Depp versus Heard.
So no one learns their lesson. No one learns from their mistakes, because we just repeat the same thing.
I mean, maybe normal people, some do. Maybe there were people who would have been much more inclined to believe an accuser in the past versus now. I mean, I think I'm even that way. When Amber Heard first made her allegations against Johnny Depp publicly, and she did that walk of shame, so to speak, with the fake bruise outside of court.
Yeah.
I believed her
Right.
at that point. That's where I was. I wasn't an uber feminist or anything, but I believed her. And I thought, yeah, he seems like a creepy guy, whatever. No offense to Johnny Depp, but that's what I thought.
Right.
And so I certainly have come a hell of a long way from that kind of gullibility. And so I think a lot of normal people or sensible people have, but the mainstream media, they're just going to keep sticking to that narrative.
It's so funny because, you know, we had this election, we saw how people voted, and I'm curious how the mainstream media would, if they would shift at all. And maybe there was a brief moment of them being like, maybe we got this wrong. And they went right back to just doing the same thing. They're so locked in this prison too, of how they perceive the world. I'm like, what is it going to take to shatter these people, to shatter this whole system, this ecosystem where they promote lies? Like, I don't know why it's so hard for that, and for those institutions to like unshackle themselves from that. It's so weird.
I guess just very entrenched political views. And also, I think that there are a number of people who just really don't believe that women lie about this stuff. I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? But I do think that there's some people that really just think that no woman would put herself through this for no reason or whatever. It was never for no reason. There are always very attractive reasons in these cases.
In these cases, for sure.
Attention or money or someone's psychopathology or whatever, right?